Most people have never heard of this berry. It doesn't show up at your local grocery store, it's not something your doctor has probably mentioned, and it certainly hasn't gotten the same attention as blueberries or pomegranate. But what researchers have been quietly discovering about this small, dark fruit is nothing short of remarkable. Studies show it can meaningfully lower blood pressure, reduce LDL cholesterol, and actually improve how your arteries function from the inside. And the results aren't coming from one small study in someone's basement. Multiple independent trials published in respected cardiovascular journals are pointing to the same conclusion. If you're over 60 and concerned about your heart health, the next 10 minutes could genuinely change what you're doing every single day. I'm Dr. James, and this channel exists for one reason: to bring you the latest evidence-based research on senior health, translated into language that actually makes sense. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd encourage you to do that now so you don't miss videos like this one. New research drops constantly, and I cover it specifically for people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Now let's talk about this berry. The berry is called Aronia. You might also see it labeled as black chokeberry, or by its scientific name, Aronia melanocarpa. It grows primarily in Eastern Europe and North America, and it has been consumed for centuries in Poland and Russia. But it's only in the last decade that Western researchers have started paying serious attention to what's inside it, and what they've found is genuinely impressive. Here's why it matters for your heart specifically. Your arteries are not just passive tubes carrying blood. They are living tissue that needs to expand and contract with every heartbeat. When the inner lining of your arteries, called the endothelium, gets damaged or stiff, blood pressure rises because your vessels can't relax properly. That arterial stiffness is one of the major reasons blood pressure climbs as we age. Most people are told to take a pill for it, and sometimes that's absolutely the right call. But Aronia works at a different level. It contains some of the highest concentrations of anthocyanins ever measured in a food, and those compounds directly stimulate nitric oxide production in the endothelial cells. Nitric oxide is what tells your arteries to relax and widen. More nitric oxide means more flexibility, and more flexibility means lower pressure. A 2019 study published in Phytotherapy Research examined 66 patients with mild to moderate hypertension who were not yet on blood pressure medication. Half received 300 milligrams of standardized Aronia extract daily for 12 weeks. The other half received a placebo. At the end of the study, the Aronia group had reduced their systolic blood pressure by an average of 9.2 millimeters of mercury. To put that in context, many first-line blood pressure medications produce reductions in that same range. The placebo group saw no meaningful change. But here's what shocked me when I reviewed this research more closely. Blood pressure was only part of the story. The same participants who were taking Aronia also showed significant improvements in their cholesterol panel. LDL, the harmful cholesterol that contributes to plaque buildup in arteries, dropped by an average of 18%. HDL, the protective cholesterol, increased, and something called oxidized LDL, which is even more dangerous because it actively damages arterial walls, dropped by 29%. These are not trivial numbers. These are the kinds of changes that cardiologists try to achieve with pharmaceutical intervention. I want to pause here and ask you something. Have you ever had a doctor tell you your cholesterol is borderline and you need to either start a statin or really clean up your diet? If that's been your experience, comment below and let me know. I want to understand what seniors in this community are actually dealing with, because it shapes the content I create for you. Let me tell you about Margaret, who was 71 years old and had been told her blood pressure was sitting at 152/91. Her doctor gave her a 3-month window to bring it down before starting medication. She was already walking daily and eating reasonably well, but the numbers weren't moving. Her daughter, who had been watching videos on cardiovascular health, came across the research on Aronia and suggested she try a standardized extract. Margaret was skeptical, but she started taking it consistently every morning with breakfast. After 10 weeks, her blood pressure at her follow-up appointment was 141/84. Still not perfect, but her doctor extended the lifestyle window another 3 months and said whatever she was doing was working. Now, why does Aronia specifically work better than other antioxidant-rich foods you might already be eating? This is an important question, and the answer comes down to concentration and bioavailability. Researchers at the University of Illinois conducted an analysis comparing the total polyphenol content of common fruits and found that Aronia berries contain roughly 4 times the anthocyanin concentration of blueberries, which are already considered a superfood for vascular health. More importantly, a 2021 review in Nutrients concluded that the specific anthocyanin profile in Aronia, particularly cyanidin-3 galactoside, has unusually high absorption rates in the gut, meaning your body actually uses more of what you consume compared to many other plant sources. There's another mechanism worth understanding. Beyond nitric oxide and cholesterol, Aronia appears to reduce systemic inflammation, which is increasingly recognized as one of the root drivers of cardiovascular disease. A study from the Polish Academy of Sciences measured C-reactive protein, a key inflammation marker, in patients taking Aronia extract for 8 weeks and found reductions averaging 23%. Chronic low-grade inflammation quietly damages arterial walls over years and decades. Reducing it isn't a quick fix for a crisis, but it's one of the most important things you can do for long-term heart health. This next point is one that most people overlook, and it could save you from a very common and costly mistake. Not all Aronia products are created equal. The active compounds in Aronia are relatively unstable. Heat processing, long shelf life, and certain extraction methods can destroy a significant portion of the anthocyanins before the product ever reaches you. This means buying a generic berry blend powder or a low-quality capsule may give you almost none of the benefits seen in the clinical trials. Frank was 68 years old and had been taking what he thought was a high-quality Aronia supplement for 4 months with zero change in his cholesterol or blood pressure numbers. When his daughter looked more closely at the label, they discovered the product had no standardization for anthocyanin content and had been made with a heat-dried berry powder rather than a concentrated extract. They switched him to a product standardized to at least 1% anthocyanins with third-party testing verification. Within 2 months, his follow-up labs showed his LDL had dropped 14 points, and his blood pressure had come down from 148/88 to 139/82. The quality of what you buy matters enormously, and I'll tell you exactly what to look for in just a moment. But first, have you noticed that most natural cardiovascular interventions your doctor knows about are things like fish oil, CoQ10, or magnesium? Comment below if you've tried any of those and whether you noticed a real difference. I'm genuinely curious what has actually moved the needle for people watching this. Here's exactly what you should do if you want to try Aronia for cardiovascular support. Look for a product labeled as Aronia melanocarpa extract that is standardized to at least 1% total anthocyanins and ideally up to 3%. Standardization is critical because it tells you the active compound content is guaranteed, not just whatever happened to survive the manufacturing process. The dose used in most of the clinical studies that showed blood pressure and cholesterol benefits ranged from 200 to 300 milligrams of standardized extract daily. Take it in the morning with your first meal, as food improves absorption. Do not buy products that simply say Aronia berry powder without any standardization information. Do not buy juice-based products as the anthocyanin content after processing is highly variable and often low. Look for capsules or tablets from brands that display a certificate of analysis from a third-party testing lab like NSF International or USP Verified. You can find these products at better supplement retailers, Whole Foods, or reputable online sources like Amazon if you search specifically for standardized Aronia extract. Give it at least 8 to 12 weeks before evaluating your results. Blood pressure changes and cholesterol shifts happen gradually at the cellular level and cannot be measured meaningfully after 2 or 3 weeks. Track your blood pressure at home if you have a cuff, which you absolutely should if cardiovascular health is a concern. Write down your readings every morning before eating, and bring that log to your next doctor's appointment. A critical note before you start: if you are currently taking blood pressure medication, blood thinners like warfarin or statins, please do not add any new supplement, including Aronia, without speaking to your doctor first. Aronia can potentiate blood pressure-lowering effects, which sounds like a good thing but can create dangerously low pressure if combined with certain medications without medical supervision. It is also mildly blood-thinning due to its polyphenol content. This is not something to skip past. One conversation with your doctor before starting protects you from a complication that would erase any benefit. The story of Aronia is really a story about how much is still out there that mainstream medicine hasn't caught up with yet. A berry with 4 times the cardiovascular active compounds of blueberries, backed by multiple controlled human trials, and most doctors have never once mentioned it to a patient. That's why videos like this one exist. If what you learned today feels useful, comment "trying this" below, or tell me your current blood pressure reading so we can see how our community is doing together. And if you know someone who is quietly managing high blood pressure or trying to avoid going on a statin, share this video with them. That share might genuinely matter. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do now. Next week, I'm covering a combination of 3 specific nutrients that cardiologists use together to dramatically reduce arterial stiffness, and the results in people over 65 are remarkable. You won't want to miss that one. Until then, this is Dr. James reminding you that you have more tools available than you've been told. Use them wisely.